Hey, I'm Charlie, and this is my story. I became a Christian when I was 10. I grew up in a local Baptist church, attending Sunday school and various youth groups. My summers were spent at Christian camps, and I had a traditional Christian upbringing that was pretty straightforward. It wasn't until my teenage years, I guess, that I came away from the church and became more of the world. And I think then it began a journey of what I would call a toe-dipping faith. So I think I always had a belief in something, and I knew that was God. I definitely believed in Jesus. I just wouldn't have what I called a relationship with Jesus. My prayers were quite typical of, please help me, I need you, I don't feel well. And it wasn't what I would ever have described as a personal relationship. I went through significant childhood trauma. I actually suffered sexual abuse from being a young child, and I never shared that. I never processed that. I never dealt with that. And I carried for many, many years a lot of shame, unresolved trauma that presented itself, I know now looking back, in some really poor choices. I think my behaviours reflected a lot of what I was feeling, and consequently I suffered really poor mental ill health that went probably under the radar and undiagnosed for quite a long time. My behaviour choices were quite destructive to myself and those around. And for a while that suited me, actually. I think I quite liked that way of living. I've always held on to the label of an all-in kind of person. So if I go for something, I go all in. And that was very true of a lot of the choices that I made. And that caused a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. And then in 2021, to add to that, I at the time was working as a Macmillan nurse during COVID, and suffered quite significant vicarious trauma. And I came out with a clinical diagnosis of PTSD and depression, and I broke. And I was really lonely, and it was a really dark place. And then I remember walking through the doors of Stay and Play and thinking, I was really surprised at how clean everything was and how good the coffee was. And just for the first time in a really long time, I felt safe. And I couldn't explain that. And I don't think that I could really recognize what that was. And I know now that was Jesus. That is Jesus. Quite quickly after being at Stay and Play on a Monday, I started coming on a Sunday. However, for about 6 months, I think I was the last one in through the door, first one out. I always sat on the back row and did anything to avoid the inevitable awkward post-church chit-chat. However, as I touched on before, I am an all-in person, and I quickly changed my mindset actually to that of being just all in for Jesus, and embarked on the most life-changing, I suppose, discipleship walk with him. My poor mental health led to an awful lot of psychiatric care, intense specialist therapy, prescribed psychiatric medication, and for a long time that worked well. And I do still believe in those things, and I think that actually I totally believe that Jesus doesn't just heal in one way, and I think that sometimes it looks like being able to say I need specialist help. Sometimes it looks like being able to say I need a doctor to help me manage this situation. It's bigger than I can manage. And for a while that did definitely look like medication. And I'm really proud to say actually that is no longer my story. It was a part of my healing, and I will always champion that in the right time and the right place, that prescribed medication is well placed for mental health. But I am proud to say that actually they are no longer part of my journey. And I guess essentially the difference between where I am now and where I was is absolutely that of Jesus. Like 100%, I know what walking looks like without him, and I now know what walking with him looks like. And I have found a new freedom in him, in a way that I never found in anything else that I tried to do, and any other way of trying to overcome the issues that I had and the identity that I'd placed on myself in terms of the abuse, the depression, and actually I was able to forgive my abuser, which 30 years on was absolutely only because of God. Like, that is only a miracle. I have spent so many hours in therapy where I have tried to, knowing that forgiveness was the right thing to do, but I just could not. I held on to it and I could not do that. And it was only until Jesus that I absolutely had the freedom to be able to do that. A friend recently told me a quote from a guy who is a Christian, and his quote is, "The story's not over." And I think there was a time in my life where I absolutely wanted my story to be over, and actually believed that was the right way, and that there was no way I was going to have hope, or there was no way I was going to find joy again. But actually, I have held on to that, and I now believe, I stand on that as God's promise, that actually the story is not over. And I truly believe that if God can turn around a story like mine, and I know it's still not over yet, I know there's still more, I'm just so excited, and I just think I am all in and I'm ready. And essentially, I think I would hope that is what my testimony can show, that when you feel like there is no hope, or you are on the darkest day and you think, I think people would just be better if I wasn't here. I think if God can turn that around, I don't think there's anything he can't.